Feminism originated as a movement towards the goal of breaking women out of the societal positions they were forced into by a patriarchal society. For the most part, that is still the case, while the demands and issues may be different. Since the beginning, feminism has been a women's movement, with almost all the prominent voices coming from powerful women trying to fight for equality. However, that does not mean that all women have always been behind it. The feminist movement has had many detractors over the years out of fear for the upset status quo, and while it's easy to assume that the only ones who feel this are those in danger of having their power taken away, there are many of the groups being disparaged who take issue with these social justice movements. In the early days of feminism, there was a significantly larger number of women who either did not consider themselves feminists or who directly opposed it. In fact, feminism was largely considered a fringe movement done by the media that hoped to uphold the status quo as bra burners. The term feminist carried a negative connotation, some of which still remains to this day, as women were looked at by men and other women as entitled or anarchist or hysterical. It wasn't until the women received the right to vote, and in turn a far louder voice in American politics, that they could not be ignored, and that many more women joined the movement as the type of rights and opportunities they were deprived of was finally brought to their attention. If American women today were disparaged and treated the way they were during the birth of the feminist movement, it is undeniable that their voices would be near unanimous in the call for freedom and equal rights, and yet the volume of voices during that time only came from a certain subset of women. Feminism was more of a political movement than a real uprising, despite the need for it being so apparent and the group affected so large. Looking back with a modern mindset, it is shocking to see that the first and second waves of feminism weren't even louder, and even more so that they happened so late in history. There's a reason for this. Young girls in those days were raised being taught that their half of the population is intended to find a nice or a rich man to marry, have a lot of children, and spend most of their lives as a complacent housewife. That expectation of what their life was to be was so widely pushed and so early ingrained into their mindsets that the idea of anything else could not be seen as anything short of radicalism. For that reason, there was a staggering number of women defending their place as a woman in that society, defending that idea of what their lives were supposed to be. Without a lifetime of societal pressures telling these women what they should believe and the place where they belonged, they may have gone on to be writers, professors, and scholars, and most importantly, any effort to prevent them from pursuing that would be met with incredible resistance. Simply put, the vast number of women in that time who opposed the feminist movement, or simply didn't care, did not genuinely think they did not deserve those rights, but rather they had been conditioned by a misogynist society from birth to never expect them. The same effect is present today. You would be hard-pressed to find any woman today who opposes women's suffrage, but in the infancy of the feminist movement, there were many women against it. Similarly, when you ask many women who do not consider themselves feminist what they think of some of the current feminist talking points, many of them may tell you that they are in opposition, not necessarily because they do not believe they deserve those rights, or because they don't think they're equal to men, but because for their whole lives they have been deprived of those rights and privileges, and they've grown to accept that way of life. Women know inherently that the value of their lives is equal to that of a man. We know this because we know that women's minds are just as capable, a woman's spirit just as strong as any man. And this simple fact is the basis of the entire feminist movement. The firm belief that there is no intrinsic difference in the value between a man and a woman is enough to justify every call of action that can bring us up to equal rights. If men and women are inherently equal, there is no reason to hold one group back to hold the other up, save to uphold the traditions and expectations of an outdated status quo. There are still women who are against the efforts to empower us and remove these expectations. With the intellectual diversity and freedom of speech present in this country, and the constantly evolving standards all around the world, this will be true for a long time. But while there are women who oppose the political stances and goals of the feminist movement, we are all united in the shared knowledge that the worth of a man and the worth of a woman is inherently equal. Women to this day are born and raised told that they cannot expect the same opportunities as men, but without those societal pressures, we are united in the core belief that men and women are born equal. By principle, all women are feminists.